Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Van Meter, and today I got to meet a really inspiring person. I got to meet with Ty Haguewood from MTI and SMD, two businesses just north of Albuquerque, New Mexico. And Ty is not from the industry. He's a finance guy, but was lucky enough to basically get asked to go walk in the door and go see this machine shop about 6 years ago. And he shares just a remarkable journey of just being absolutely floored by what this company was doing and wanting to become a part of it. And now is the general manager and the CFO of both of these businesses with his partner. And gosh, I'm kind of at a loss of words. It's just, sometimes you meet people that are so inspiring, that are so well-spoken, have such charisma, that it just impacts you in a way that is different than most conversations and most interactions. And that was true today. I thought I could keep the tears at bay, but I just couldn't. This guy really made an impact, and I know he will on you as well. It's a remarkable story of humility, of personal awareness, of intentionality in how he's helping to lead this business and make it an incredible place to work. And it's just very cool. And the fact that he probably almost didn't end up in this industry. It was just a chance, his brother asking him to go meet this guy and tour his shop. We're just lucky as an industry that we have him in it. I know he'll be a voice that we hear more of over many years because he's a young man. He's only 31, but wise well beyond his years. So I've gushed enough. Let's go ahead and get into this conversation with Ty. All right, Ty, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you for having me on, man. This is an honor.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you. We just caught up a little bit before we hit record, and you have an awesome story. So let's start by introducing you to the audience. Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, so my name's Ty Haguewood. I am the general manager and CFO of Manufacturing Technologies and Stone Mather Designs, MTI and SMD. Sister companies, well, really MTI owns SMD. Very different manufacturing companies, and I oversee operations and the financials for both sides. So yeah, that's who I am and where I am today.
All right. Well, first, let's tell us a little bit more about each business. Tell us about MTI first.
So MTI is a precision aerospace machine shop, AS 9100 Rev D, ISO 9001 certified, CMMC compliant, and in the process of getting certified once they release the auditors.
Yeah, good for you. Very
systems driven, very complicated, complex parts. Precision's the name of that game. We do about roughly around 4 or 5 million a year on that side. That's all aerospace contracts. A lot of long-term agreements there for both national labs. We are in New Mexico, and anybody in New Mexico does the Los Alamos and Sandia National Labs route.
Very cool.
Got 22 CNC machines, everything from 5-axis, 4-axis. We have a robot. We've got lathes with bar feeders. So that side is, I kind of call that our cutting edge side. So that's where we look into new technologies. That's where we like to spend a lot of our energy really developing, just because the need is there due to the complexity of the parts. And so that's the MTI side. We've got a crew of about 15 people. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we've had the same crew for about 5 years now. We've not really lost anybody, and I'd like to talk about some of the things that we've done from an employee retention side. Mm-hmm. But so MTI, very precise, very systems oriented, aerospace, and then Stone Mather Designs is the exact opposite. So Stone Mather Designs is our product company that does franchise and residential light sconces. We make lights for Planet Fitness, Twin Peaks, Dairy Queen, a lot of different franchises like that. Planet Fitness is by far our biggest customer. We do anywhere from 200 to 400 custom light sconces for them a month.
Wow.
And so that game is all inventory and strategic pricing and designing and kind of R&D on designs. And so, and very reliant on certain things like interest rates in the construction world and that sort of thing. So two completely separate businesses, both manufacturing, and both offer very unique advantages at different times, but they are both the actual game plan for what it takes to run them is completely different. And that's what makes it very fun for us.
Mm-hmm. And different types of manufacturing. Obviously, with the machine shop, it's all milling and turning. With the sconces, I'm guessing it's mostly laser cutting and forming and bending and that sort of thing.
Exactly. In fact, we just bought a new Amada Insys 3015. This year it got delivered in July. So we had been running that entire business on a 1990s Amada that was just cranking, Old Faithful. And anybody in a shop understands that sometimes the oldest machine is your most reliable.
Yeah.
It started taking a turn to where we essentially were going to have to start fixing things, and they were going to be worth more than the machine was. And so we decided to invest in it. And at the rate of the quantities that we run in lights, and then the rate of growth from that side of the company, it definitely made that worth it. And that was the first machine purchase since our first laser that we made with the intention of growing Stone Mather designs. Due to that being more historically of a kind of a side hustle, and MTI being the main thing. Now, there's benefits there. Sheet metal in aerospace world is high demand, and if you have a really cutting edge fiber laser, it offers that too. So we are learning that side of it. Our sheet metal expertise is way better at things we design and have time to prove out and tweak. But on aerospace time, deadlines are so aggressive and so tight. You really need to know what you're doing to be able to offer that, to match the quality of our 5-axis parts or our lathe parts or anything like that. And so it's a very exciting time for us because, like you said, it's two sides of the shop. And the way our shop is structured, it's 23,000 square foot facility. The front half is fabrication. The back half is the machining. We kind of say the clean processes are in the back and the dirty processes are up front. And so that's kind of the divide. MTI and SMD is kind of two halves of the building. And we definitely are trying to merge those. Because on the Stone Mather side, I can make all threads that go in light sconces on our lathes. We can kind of intertwine that quite a bit. And so that's kind of where we're at with both companies. Very exciting times.
Yeah. And how long have you been involved with the two businesses?
So 6 years. So August 5th, 2019, I started, and
August 5th.
I have been an absolute fanatic of this industry ever since I started. So my background, I was a conference speaker in the church world in my early 20s. To be honest, Paul, I talk about this a lot, leading with a limp. You have to own your failures. You have to own kind of where you've been and not be ashamed of that and move forward and build back. And when I was 22, made some questionable decisions. I decided that it was best for me to step down and rebuild myself. And I kind of went into what I call my dark years. I deleted social medias. I stopped creating content. I had a podcast at the time that I stopped, and I just went to work. And that was both physically, mentally, emotionally, purpose-wise. I just wanted my life to match the thoughts that I had, which were noble and good. My actions weren't matching at that season. And so I kind of wandered around. I had success in that world speaking, and so that gave me a unique resume. I got a good job in finance, and I had a degree in business. And so I landed in 401k investing, which not fun. That is not for me. My brother is still a financial planner and he loves it. I couldn't be more opposite. So I worked there for a little bit, and I decided, okay, I need to be in a small business setting, and I need to, I guess it's just work for myself, figure out something that I can do. And I've always been very entrepreneurial, but I just didn't know. So I was like, maybe I'll write a book. I was young and restless and just trying to figure it out. And around that time, Lucas, who owns MTI, he reached out to my brother, who's his best friend, and he found out that I was looking for something, and he asked me to just drop by the shop and see if I'd be interested in walking through. And he knew my background. He knew that I had a kind of a unique perspective on things, I think. And I think he also knew how green I was. Now we laugh about it today. So I roll up for my brother begged me to go. And I was like, okay, I'll go walk through the shop. Didn't know what a machine shop was. I didn't know anything. I mean, I was definitely a guy that said made in the USA, but I said it as a cliche. I didn't know what it meant to make something. So I show up to the shop, and you walk into our lobby, and it is so unassuming, like most shops, right? The lobby is completely underdeveloped because most shop owners are not going to spend the money to make that look cutting edge.
Of course. Of course.
So walk through, say what's up to him, and then he walks me through the doors to go into the shop. Paul, when I say my jaw hit the ground, I mean, I did not know what I was looking at. I knew that I wanted to know what it was, though. And so he walks me through the shop, and he's showing me machines cutting, and he's explaining to me the difference between a lathe and a mill. I mean, I'm that green. In this conversation, I learned that there was multiple types of aluminum. I learned that stainless isn't just stainless. I mean, that green. And by the end of the conversation, I said, man, this is what I've been looking for. Like the way he paint. I mean, he was telling me like everything you touch has been made by somebody. And he was very big on just the machinist ethos. And he was a machinist. And at this time, his father was still involved and he was owning it, but Lucas was in the process of that transition. He was at the very start of that transition. And so he was still very much on the shop floor. And the way he talked about it, I was like, man, I'm hooked. And so I told him, I said, if you'll teach me what the different types of aluminum are, I'll help you build whatever vision you have for this place. And since that day, I had to start at the bottom. His dad's very old school. You don't get, doesn't matter what your resume is, you do not get to start at the top. And so he didn't want me to be treated differently. So I started in shipping and ordering MSC items. And coming from my background, that was, my first impression was like, oh man, this is like, whoa, I haven't done something like this since I was in high school. Like it feels like I should be doing more. But what I did is I took that as an opportunity to pay attention. Okay, what are the guys ordering? What are those used for? So on and so forth. And then I used to write it in my journal every day. What's the biggest problem I can solve? And I would go out, and if it was something like somebody hadn't swept that nasty corner in a long time, that would be the task that day. Or these parts need to be deburred, I would go do that day. And honestly, my favorite part of this industry is it's very much a meritocracy. The value you put in, you can get out of it. And I solved a lot of problems. Those slowly started to turn into bigger problems I was solving systems wise. And Lucas and Chuck just let me run. And then as time went on, I took the role as general manager, and then slowly took over the financial side of things. And yeah, so I've been hooked since day one. And I believe simply if people walked into more shops, we'd have more people in the industry. I think the fact that there's just no exposure to it hurts us. I mean, I want all my friends to come walk through just so they can see it exists. I mean, it's such a hidden secret, and it's a shame that the general public doesn't have more visibility to it.
Yeah, we interviewed a gentleman on making chips who was an author of children's books. His name was Mike, I think, and he said, when you drive by a construction site, the kids in the back seat, they look and they see these big machines. They're like, oh, wow, that's cool. That's neat. When you drive by a machine shop, it's just a concrete building. You can't see anything inside. And yeah, it is a shame. And that's, you just gave me goosebumps when you talked about that story. That is so cool, walking through the door and just having your jaw drop like that.
Well, I think another issue that we have with this is they don't tell people that aren't trades guys that there's careers in this either. So like my friends that I went to college with that aren't blue collar, aren't tradesmen, don't know a machinist, have never thought about being a machinist, they don't realize that you can go be a general manager. You can go be, work in accounting. You can go work in purchasing. You can take a traditional education route if that was your path and turn that into a career. And I think that in and of itself too, just opening people's eyes to like, hey, regardless of what your skill set is, there is a place for you in manufacturing. And you just got to kind of look for it. And shops have so much need. None of us have enough people. So if you come in with a unique skill set, we'll find a spot for you. I mean, that's how most shops operate. So I was very fortunate just that the stars aligned and I found my purpose here.
Yeah, I mean, every machine shop is just like every other business. They have every need. They need finance, they need procurement, they need HR, they need marketing, they need operations, like the full gamut. And so, yeah, that's a really great message. Well, that is a really cool story about how you got into this industry. So tell me a little bit about the MTI side. It sounds like you're pretty diversified with different types of machines and alloys and stainless and aluminums and everything. And then before we hit record, you said you've had the same crew for pretty long time, like not a lot of turnover. That is one of the biggest challenges that, most shops are facing, trying to find and retain people. What do you think you've been doing right there that's helping you do that?
So we implemented a few things very intentionally that we actually, from our peers at other shops, got some pushback against. And my side of it, you actually had a gentleman on that talked about this on the show a few episodes ago, I believe it was. I forget the gentleman's name, but he talked about like the humanity in business and how you've got to understand like your business is a platform to invest in people and grow them as individuals as much as, and the beautiful part of business is if you're good at that, your business grows too. People devote themselves to things that make them feel fulfilled and get to them what they need out of life. And honestly, we spend so much time with the people we work with that I personally in management, I want to enjoy coming to work. I don't want a hostile work environment. I want good benefits. I want, that dream place, my dream truck, all those things that you have as a human, you want those for your guys if you care about them genuinely. And that the reality is I don't think people intentionally choose not to care about their guys. I think they get busy. And I think busy is the enemy of that I guess, intentional investment into your guys. And so Lucas and I kind of have a rule. We tag team it. Either one of us have to be out on the shop floor talking to the guys and having personal relationships. And the cool part about that is we both have two personalities. So I naturally click with certain people. He naturally clicks with certain people. And it kind of works out that way. But the intentional things that we did was we instilled quarterly bonus reviews, quarterly performance reviews based around a quarterly review. And so my perspective was there was a huge lack of celebration of good performance and a huge emphasis on when a guy scraps a part. I don't like as a leader only coming down with accountability and never accolades. I think that the two need to be married, and that's how you garner respect. And so if I am quick to celebrate the job that runs great and the guy, we quoted it at 15 hours total and he gets it done in 4, that guy needs applause. He is helping your business win. And that guy needs to be talked to if he scraps an entire lots of parts because he wasn't paying attention. And I need to be able to have the respect and the platform and the safety in that relationship to be able to have both sides of that conversation. And so if I'm going to write somebody up for performance, I better have something that it counters that, right? That incentivizes really good. So we do a percentage of revenue per quarter to the guys. That's a pot that they can qualify for based on the metrics that we set. For example, scrap percent being 2% or better, which is aggressive. It's very aggressive. I know a lot of people have thrown out 4% is the number. We try to strive for better than 2%. AS 9100 compliance, attendance, those kind of, things that you would write people up for. But I use it and I tell the guys, this is your way to put it back in my face that you need more money or that you need more opportunity or that you are doing a good job. And I, as a leader, have to acknowledge that. And that has been the biggest success that we've had because one, guys are making a lot more money, just quite frankly, and that helps with employee retention.
Sure.
2, they feel respected. We always give them a platform to talk. We always ask for their concerns, which a weird byproduct that I wasn't expecting was it gives us almost an immediate reaction time to solving problems rather than letting something fester and build into a nuclear bomb that destroys our culture. And so that's been huge. And then the other biggest thing that we implemented was 410 workdays. And we were a 2-shift shop, then we were a 1-shift, 5 days a week. And I'm a numbers and a data guy. And we did it as a test run during COVID when gas prices were high. And we told the guys, this is for you guys to save money on gas. And it was to help them. I used it as a testing ground for data. What's our productivity like? They're better. For us, we found every single metric that we use for our KPIs improved. Their morale was better. They didn't mind staying an extra hour or two because most of them hadn't finished the part or needed some extra time anyways. Then it opened up Fridays for being our overtime day. Holidays like Labor Day, they got a 4-day weekend. They come back to 3 days and then they're back off again. Those things improve the quality of life so drastically. And for us, if we know that at the quote phase, we understand what our throughput is, we can quote properly, not lose money, and keep employees. And I think that that's been the two biggest things by far. The respect of the guys and having a face-to-face, giving them a piece of the pie, being able to keep them accountable in that same meeting if they're slipping up, and then giving them a lifestyle that they enjoy. And I think that's been single-handedly the best thing. And then we cut out bad hires. And so we don't want a big team here. That's we're kind of the opposite. Everybody complains about not being able to hire. I would rather pay my guys more, invest more into the guys that are loyal to you, and develop their skills, and then add strategic people at the right time that fit our culture, that don't come in and just hinder it. And if I can pay my guy that's been great for us $5 more an hour than hiring somebody else, I would do that time and time again. And so that's been another huge thing, is we pretty much guard our culture to be the MTI fit and our crew.
Dude, that was awesome. Wow. I love combining the data and the human side and giving them that respect. And it made me think of when my wife and I have like most couples, gone through some tough times and some counseling. And one of the things we learned is that when you have a relationship with two people and you have a negative interaction, you need about 10 positive ones to keep a balance, right? So like putting coins into a piggy bank, you need to put 10 of them in to take one out. And I'm sure that's true in the workplace, so you got to have like 10 attaboys, pat on the back, like great job, for one, hey, you really messed this up, I'm going to come down a little hard on you.
Yeah.
Make sure you understand the ramifications. But if you don't put those deposits on the positive side, it's just not going to work. So
yeah, you get that hostility and that pushback, that feeling attacked feeling. And I hated that when I'm trying to give constructive criticism and the guy's wall goes up, boom. And it's like, well, now we're not making progress. I'm scared you're going to quit. You're scared I'm going to fire you. And the only goal was to improve scrap rate. It's like it completely loses sight of that. And so you're exactly right, that deposit. And it is like a personal relationship. I think leadership should model like a holistic style. The same principles you do take to your wife, or I take to my wife or my daughter, I should bring into the workplace. Respect, communication, accountability, accolades. Those types, sometimes fun. Like go laugh with the guys on the shop floor. The shop floor is a blast. And if you're looking at Excel sheets or financials all day, dude, you'll pull your hair out if you don't go laugh with the guys on the shop floor. So it's good for us as leaders to have that type of dialogues.
Yeah. Oh man, that was excellent. Thank you for sharing all that. I know people will be scribbling furiously. Like, I need to do all these things. You talked about culture. Obviously you shared some of the things that help build it. Do you have published core values, or is this just been a very organic thing, or more prescriptive that you really studied and put intentionality into?
So I've worked through this a lot, and I will say, once again, leading with a limp, you got to acknowledge your failures. I am not a guy that has posted them all over our building.
Okay.
I am testing that out because I think that there's value in there. I've found that with a small crew, if you initiate something that they're going to dub corny really quickly, you better have a good soft launch into it, or you're going to give you shop-like jokes, right? And so
Yep, sure.
For our, AS 9100 certification, we do obviously have a quality policy, and the guys know that. Outside of that, we don't have a formal plan. I look at, this is going to sound probably a little bit taboo, and I don't mean to. I look at business as a testing lab. I do not get tied to our ideas, nor do I get tied to the systems that we've implemented once that worked. I think that a system designed, a lot of times simple systems are designed to be complicated to make the designer of that system look smart. But I think business changes. I think business changes. And I think that simple's good, clarity's king, and we have to constantly adapt. And so one of the things with that is I think I've been trying to do a better job with that with new hires if we hire somebody, but I haven't done a full core value launch in terms of here's what we're about. Fortunately, being a small crew, having those reviews, doing those things, we can address the character issues that play, and they very much well know what me and Lucas expect. But that is definitely a weakness of ours. We haven't invested well into putting those into the memorable key phrases. And I have a little bit of trauma, Paul. I inherited a system here that was abandoned in the early 2000s. As you know, like AS systems were overcomplicated. Every flowchart's 15 pages long. Every process is this, and guys are expected to memorize everything. I win as a general manager if my guys get to just cut chips. Like that's if they're making chips, I'm winning. Like that's how I look at it. And if they're doing a good job at that thing. And so in any system implementation that we do, I try to make it as simplest for production. And if there's any challenging, it comes to admin. Because I think admin has more time. Lost time is not as big of a deal. But on the shop floor, if my guy's sitting there studying for an AS audit, I'm losing. MTI's losing. And I'll tell you this quick story. I had a auditor come in. So we made the decision in January of 2022 to get recertified for AS. We completely changed our system, got audited in April of 2022, and were certified with no findings. So we completely aggressively overhauled everything. So we had this massive turnaround. But in that first audit, there was this old guy who was there, and he was kind of like an advisor in the audit. He was retired. His name was Graham, in his 80s. Just a wealth of wisdom. One of those guys you're just so thankful you crossed paths with. And he simply stated to me, he said, does the data work for you or do you work for the data? And he said, I see a lot of data here that I just don't see how it would help you in business. And I see a lot of words that I just don't know translates to production. And I was just like, what? Like, no, I worked on this. Like, this is my baby. And I kind of had an ego death in that moment because I realized he's right. Like, most of those things that we require production staff to do are pointless and to make, like I said, somebody else look smart. And what I want is, can my guys follow this? So we wrote the system around what they were already doing. Here's where you get travelers. Here's where you do this. Here's where you do that. And then we did it. And now we just refine it around that. So my rule when we rewrote it was no flowchart can be over a page and a half long. And if it can't be summed up that quickly, I don't want it, and we're scrapping it. And if we got to wait another year to get certified, we do, because it's just not worth it. And so because of that, I'm a little bit, and the trauma of looking through all of that documentation, I'm a little bit worried about adding stuff in, which I
Sure.
need to, because there's so many studies that show that core value work like that and really having that visibility is huge for culture. And you got to bury your head in the sand if you don't want to believe that. I mean, it's just the truth. So we do have to do a better job there.
Welcome to Work Holding Wisdom with Larry Robbins, President and CEO of SMW Autoblock, bringing manufacturers practical insights to improve efficiency, precision, and performance.
Hey, Larry, thanks for jumping on the phone with me real quick.
Hey, Mike, thanks for taking the time and giving me time of day. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, so, you've been to Hill and, like we're going through a lot of changes with some new machines and working on our automation, our work holding and so forth. And I've got, we've been sitting here talking about some plans to automate some machines, bring in some new machines, some new automated machines and so forth. What should I tell my guys, like what we need to be looking at for work holding as we, that works for us now, but also in the future as we integrate automation?
It's kind of objective, Mike, and I'll tell you what the difference is. Just make sure whatever you buy has flexibility and is adaptable across multiple platforms. The biggest mistake most customers make is buying something for a specific job, and then 6 weeks later, they have to do another job and they have to buy something else. We always tell people buy for now and buy for years down the road, because any one job may change, flex, change in capacity, quantities, whatever the case may be. Just make sure that your work holding doesn't obsolete itself, that it's flexible enough to expand.
Yeah, that's such a great point too. I guess a lot of it would depend on, so like in our case, we're kind of high mix, low volume versus, if you're a production shop doing the same thing all the time, I guess you'd take a totally different approach, huh?
It used to be that way. You used to look at people that made thousands of parts, and there's still companies that do that, but they're realizing that building dedicated fixtures is a great idea when you have a captive part that's not changing, that goes on for years at a time or weeks at a time, depending on your production levels. But with the new type of work holding that's out there, and now there's so much monitoring built in, and the ability to know where you were the last time you did a job, and especially like we talked about, Mike and Hill, you're high mix, low volume. We're the same way in our own facility here. We might make one or two or anything. If we make three or four, it's production for us. So for us and for companies like Hill, which is the largest part of our market, you just have to make sure that what you're buying is suitable for your customer base, because everybody's customer base changes, just these little tweaks and bits that make a huge difference when you buy work holding. Small things are big differences.
That makes perfect sense. One of the things I've liked with Larry, some of the options you guys have too is, and when you were in my shop, we talked about it, like I've got all these Kurt Weisses that we've had for years, and you have solutions to help me there too.
Yeah. I say, why throw out something you paid money for? We make,
right.
We make interfaces for a lot of our competitors' products. You'll notice that if you look at like what everybody refers to as stationary work holding, some people call it 5-axis tooling, some people use 3-axis tooling. It's all stationary work holding. You look at the systems that are out there now. When I started this business, Kurt Weiss was new technology. A 6-inch Kurt Weiss was $300. Try finding a $300 Kurt Weiss now. But it was the technology that was available at the time. Now we make jaws that utilize our technology that allow you to now, instead of having to prep a part or have a part prepared for a specific operation, I can clamp on a 3.5 millimeter ledge and give as much grip force as I can get ripping apart full contact. And people always call you out on it. And the test, I always tell them that we've done for customers. I had a customer that said, there's no way this will work. You're going to have to show me. We took a piece of material that was 6 inches thick, 24 inches wide, and 30 inches high, and machined at the top, taking 210,000 steps of cut. And the guy just smiled. He goes, I can't wait to take this out of that place. Me neither. Stop machining, put a lot of ice. The guy goes, there's no way. What did you do? I go, well, I don't have a magic wand, and I don't wear a cape like Harry Potter. I said, what we did is show you what we talk about is true. That's the other thing I tell people, Mike. It's easy as a salesman to tell people how great my product is or why we're the best. What I tell people is buy what's best for you. I give our competitor's name out as often as I recommend my product. I know what my wheelhouse is. I think any good salesperson looks down the road. One sale to me is one sale. I want to sell to you 100 times. If
Sure.
I'm willing to open my book up and say, hey, I'm good at this, but I'm not good at this, let me help you find a better solution. Mike, you and I had a situation where we were talking about vices. You chose a competitor. It was the most flexible one for you. No problem. Not that I can't interface with that competitor. And that's the thing now. We've all built kind of state-of-the-art platforms that allow us to have flexibility and use other products within a single system.
Yeah, well, we've certainly appreciated your guidance and honesty as we've gone through some of the work holding decisions we've made so far, and we've got a lot to make. So I'm going to share all this information with the team, and I'm sure you'll see some stuff coming in.
I appreciate it, but anything we could do to help, Mike, it's to me, it's about the industry. I grew up in this, paid for my kids going to college. It's making it so I can retire in 4 years. My favorite thing to say is I want to live long enough to be a pest to my children. I think I'm already accomplishing that long before I'm retired. So I'm living my own.
I can't imagine that to be a true statement.
I'm living oh God, you know what, Mike? It's funny, as children are children. They're always your kids, and it's funny because my kids had no clue what I did until I had a daughter that worked here for an internship in the summer. She goes, Dad, I thought some guy named Chuck was calling you and you were going out on Friday nights. There was nothing to do with product. She goes, I found out there really is something called a Chuck. It's made of metal. She goes,
That's too funny.
Mom was so impressed that you're not out drinking with your friends every night. And it's, as you know, Mike, it's all about the relationships you build in this industry. And I feel like in order to maintain and build a relationship, you have to be honest. It's the cornerstone of anything. If you can't be honest with the people that you're doing business with, take a look in the mirror, be introspective, figure out what you really should be doing, because you shouldn't be talking to people or selling to them. Because I want somebody to tell me the cold hard truth, and instead of blowing me some line of a sales pitch, I would rather have somebody tell me, you know what, you're a great guy, I appreciate your help, but I'm not buying your product. And I'm thank them, shake their hand, and walk away happily.
Well, that's a great way to put it. I'm going to share this info with the team, and we'll get moving.
Excellent, Mike. Anything we can do to help, let us know, bro.
Thank you for that answer. That was really thoughtful. You mentioned not bringing in bad hires.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your interviewing and vetting process to make sure that someone's going to be a good cultural fit. Because it sounds like that was the most important thing, not their skill set, but the cultural side.
So in 2019, when I got here, we had 25 staff members. And obviously I said we're down to 15. Mm-hmm. In early 2020, like January of 2020, we had a staff blow up. And a lot of shops don't like to talk about this. I do, because it taught us what me and Lucas needed to know about leadership for ourselves. And the best part was Chuck, his dad, let it happen. He watched us get burned by the fire. He let us lose guys. So we had these two power players, basically, that hated each other, two shop guys. And they went at each other, and it completely divided. And we ended up losing half the staff. I ended up firing the other guy too, because it made it clear, like, this hostility here just can't go. And so I went through every study I could. I'm a books guy. I'm reading every book. I'm listening to every podcast. I'm watching TED Talks. I'm doing the whole thing. And my takeaway and what's worked for us is Lucas and I, one of us typically has a gut for whether somebody is or isn't. And sometimes the answer is gut instinct. I ask questions. I walk them through the shop. We do those things. And I do ask specific questions about culture. I care way less about experience than I should. I just believe we can train people. I think we have a track record that shows that we take guys that are green and we turn them into superstars. And so I'm very okay with that. But I look at things like how they talk about culture at the last place. Why are they wanting to move? I like to hire people that they're moving because they see it as a career advancement rather than they're doing it because they hate the last place. Because I don't often get a true story, and we'll never know the story. And sometimes they could be true about how bad the last guy was. And then when we're walking through, we actually talk out loud through our current team. So like I will ask Lucas, like, how do you think he's going to do with this employee? How do you think he's going to do with that employee? And we kind of match up personalities, and we kind of match that up. Now, that's not scalable, Paul. Like, if I was going after hiring 50 guys, that would be a massive mistake, because it's not scalable to say trust one guy's gut or trust two guys' guts. But for us right now and where we're at, it works very effectively. And then the biggest one is just don't be rushed to hire. I think business decisions made out of desperation always end up pretty bad. Every once in a while, you'll get lucky. And so even when you feel like, golly, there's not enough time, there's never enough time in our industry. There's never enough time in my job. That's just being in manufacturing with deadlines and fires and machines going down and people not showing up. But I think if you're rushing into hires, you're going to make a mistake. And so I would say just slowing down, really getting to know somebody. We actually just had somebody where I once again, leading with a limp, I had a guy that I invested 2 years in that was a bad hire that I knew day one, gut. It was just like, this guy doesn't care about his own future. He doesn't self-regulate. He doesn't care about his reputation. He doesn't have that desire to improve in his life, not just at work, but in general. I don't see any traits of that. And I, over and over again, personally, I would meet with him to kind of mentor him in business and tried to get him up that way. We did on the job training, all those things. Horrible. Two years, ends up quitting over a $400 mistake. And then 2 weeks later, I find his replacement and she's absolutely killing it and is a great hire and farther along than that person was in 2 years. And I betrayed my gut on the first one. And so I think even if you have a good list of questions, I think you need to listen to your gut and what it's taught you, and pray your gut's right, obviously. But for us,
Sure.
having me and Lucas as a dynamic, we always have to explain it to each other. And so we're both involved in that hiring process. And so if my gut says yes, he wants me to explain that and explain why I think so. And so there does become that dialogue to where I'm not recklessly hiring or he's not recklessly hiring.
Mm-hmm. So you said it's not scalable. If you were hiring 50 people, what do you think you would do instead?
I think I would invest more in the leaders underneath me, and I would try to instill gut to that. And I think that I would have to marry your previous question on culture. I would have to marry that in. And so we would have to nail down the phrases, the metrics to do that. With production staff, it's easy to get caught up in this guy's experience on that 5-axis machine, for example, because it's so rare to find a skilled guy. But I don't know that the ROI is positive on that guy if he comes in as a cancer to your business.
No, sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so I think that the core value work you were talking about, I think that has to be completely refined, defined, and put into a kind of an operating procedure as a company and the people that are hiring. And then I think that my shift and Lucas's shift, and we're kind of doing this now where we invest a lot of our personal time into guys underneath us. The goal is to ingrain our philosophy into those guys to where their guts kind of being developed as we do refine those cultural things. And then you have your standard questions just about work experience and those things. But like I said, those are the things that I look the least at. Like I have, like I said, when we were talking off camera, our biggest success story is a kid from Bernalillo, New Mexico, where we're at, which is a town of nothing. I mean, we're north of Albuquerque. And, there's one high school. He gets out of high school. He liked his automotive program. He was working at McDonald's. His mom drops him off at our front door, which who gets applications that way nowadays? I mean, it's always LinkedIn. It's always Indeed, recruiters, Craigslist. Shows up at our door and asks for a job. We start this kid off sweeping floors, shipping, then do the progression everybody knows. Saw's next. And then you kind of work your way up. And then he started operating and had confidence issues. So we were worried really, really, really a lot about him running a machine himself because he wouldn't pull the trigger. Felt like he needed somebody else to kind of coach him along or tell him, no, this looks right. So then we get him over to programming, and he kind of takes over programming a 3-axis mill. And then that comes into, now he's running 2 3-axis mills. And then now he's in charge of our EC400, which is a very important machine for us. I mean, a horizontal in a job shop like ours, or a shop that does have some production, it's massive. I mean, he's working on probably our biggest contract we've had in a long time currently. And he's 22 years old, 23 years old, making more than any of his friends without school debt. And he's from 2 streets over, and he just asked for a job. And so that will always be why I say I don't really care about experience, because I've hired guys that have worked at shops that I respected that turned out to be duds. And then I have this kid that we were able to just take from this green, innocent kid that just wanted a shot and turn him into that. And we have 3 or 4 guys now that are similar stories to that. And I would say that's MTI's kind of our preferred method. I mean, I'm proof of it. I'm not from the industry. I don't know somebody that was in it. My dad wasn't in it. My dad's white collar as all get out. My brother's, a VP at a financial place. Like, I come not from this world. And for even somebody like me to make it to the position that I'm in is unbelievable to me. So I will always err on hiring that kid. And if I get burned every once in a while, it doesn't work out, that's okay.
That's such a good story, the McDonald's guy.
Dude, he's awesome. Every auditor loves him. His name's Steven. I give him so much props. He is like my favorite kid I've ever met in my life.
Have you heard about this story that I've told a couple times on a couple episodes about the KFC guy?
No.
So I was at a customer probably 4 or 5 years ago now, down near Portland. And we're there shooting a video, and it gets later in the day. It's night shift has come on, and this really pretty young guy comes over, and he's setting up the 5-axis mill. And so I just go over and say hi to him, and ask him about himself. And I said, "How long have you been here?" And he said, "About 6 months." And I'm like, "Okay, 6 months. You clearly came from another shop because you're setting up the 5-axis mill on night shift." And I'm like, "What shop did you come from? Because I know most of the shops around here." He said, "I came from KFC." I'm like,
That's awesome.
KFC. I'm like, "I don't know that shop." He's like, "No, I mean Kentucky Fried Chicken."
That's
I'm
awesome.
I'm like, "Is this your first machining job?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "How in the world are you setting up a 5-axis mill on night shift without the programmers around? You didn't have a ton of support."
Wow.
And he's like, "Well, I'm just, mechanically inclined." And then, he had good work instructions and all the things. But I'm like, that is awesome, And then
Those are the
and
stories.
then they picked up a couple more guys out of that same KFC restaurant that were friends of this other guy. And, they had this little stream of guys from fast food into machining with way better career option. I love it. Just
That should be a book.
we need so many more of those stories, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's
just like
the industry is figuring things out, isn't it? I mean, that's what it boils down to. And I think our industry is the best illustration of life. Raw material, chiseled away, cut, completely grueled over and bled for, that turns into this functional, purposeful part that we ship to that same precision is what's required for us in life to make the most out of it. And I think that those stories, like the KFC guy, I mean, I'm so addicted to that. I could talk to people like that all day long. And I want my shop to be filled with them. I mean, we can complain all day that there's not the skilled guy, but if you're not willing to hire the KFC guy and train him and teach him, you don't have a leg to stand on. There's not going to be more guys. There's too many shops, too little skilled guys today. So we got to grow them and we got to develop them. And that's awesome. I haven't heard the KFC story. That is my new favorite story in the industry for sure. I'm going to tell Steven he got one-upped. He was McDonald's and KFC took over because there's more than one.
Oh, well, your story is my favorite so far as well. So tell me about your training. How are you upskilling these guys? Is it job shadowing, or is it like formal, like NIMS training, or what are you doing?
Yeah, so no formal training. We are currently, Lucas has got involved with our local community college here. He is trying to explore that avenue.
Oh, nice.
We hadn't had good success with that. And the reason was, how do I say this? The technology that they possessed wasn't the technology we had. And so hiring them from there didn't necessarily fit us because we would still have to do the basic training here. And so now that we have a lot of Haas's, and so that's kind of our entry three-axis machine. They wouldn't go straight to a Makino or a Mori or something like that. Now it fits a little better. And it came from the fact that Lucas and I felt like we weren't doing enough in our community outside of MTI. We've been told by our customers and people around us that we're the best kept secret. We don't do any public facing things, and we're trying to change that. And so that is one avenue that we are exploring now, but our MO is definitely job shadowing. The saw, the good old saw. I mean, that's every good machinist started there. And so that's a great way to test somebody's mechanical ability, just measuring things and understanding why, raw material prep is so important, stock prep is so important. And then operating, that's a big one. I mean, I personally like for them to look over somebody's shoulder while they're programming and just ask questions when they're operating, be proactive. I'm huge on resourcefulness, so I ask that all of our employees take notes and have pretty extensive notes just to look back on. I don't care how it's done. I don't care if it's 2-word notes or if it's like Steven. I mean, Steven has legal pads filled with every job he's ever ran, and that's why he's so successful. Wow. I mean, the guy knows how to go back in his system. He then converts that to a Word document, and that type of resourcefulness is huge. And then, quite frankly, there has to be a frying pan period. There has to be a time as a leader where you're going to lose money, and by giving them those first jobs. And so we kind of do it from you're a shop floor hand to an operator under one of our better guys, to operating by yourself and doing setups by yourself, setting up the machine for somebody else, and then programming. We don't do any other certifications just because I think there's a line between knowing your business well enough to know what fits you and what doesn't. And we haven't found something that fit us that was that standard. And so
Sure.
I really like to say, like, here's the finicky part of this VF2 in this corner. You got to slap it on the side, cough on it, and then it works. Like, I need to be able to have that conversation. We do standardized process here. So we have standardized tooling in all the machines. We have systems that make it easy for somebody to move from machine to machine. So we could start them with relatively inexpensive parts, inexpensive material on a machine that's old that we're not too worried about crashing necessarily or something going south, work their way up. And then once they get to those other machines, they'll be able to, the risk will be a little bit less because the standardized process is there. And then all of our guys, we ask that they learn how to program themselves. I just think that is, we don't have programmers are in this department and machinists are in this. We definitely do machinists program their parts, and we don't like to have permanent operators. And so every operator becomes a machinist is kind of our play. We don't like stagnation. So we want all of our guys to make more money, advance, get newer technology. We always say every time we get a new machine, everybody fights over it because everybody wants the new technology and the experience on it. So that's kind of our process. It helps. Lucas likes to be very involved with new guys. It's his way to still be a machinist. And so he personally does a lot of that. In fact, Steven's running the machine that Lucas ran, and he's the only person to have run it since Lucas came off of the floor. And so he's running the owner's machine. And so he was so terrified at first, but it's been cool. I always give Lucas, a little bit of grief because I think Steven's doing better now than he was. So yeah, that's kind of our process. Similar things. We're in a pivotal point where we're going digital. I'm actually meeting with ProShop later today for a second demo where I'm completely kind of changing some of my internal system to go more standardized, and I think that'll offer better training. Mm-hmm. We use JobBoss currently, and it's got some holes in it, and so it's hard to train guys and then also say, yeah, we do that except for this thing, which is this weird nuanced, and so on and so forth. So I try to kind of keep that minimal until we have our system buttoned up.
Yeah. Wow. So talking about standardized work, you mentioned standardized tooling in each machine. And I was doing the math earlier. Your revenue per employee is really good. Yeah. So you must be really, and maybe that's the standardized systems, maybe it's just, the type of work you have, but I got to believe they play together. So
they do.
Can you share a little bit more about some of the real standardized things you've put in place that have helped you with all that throughput and revenue per employee?
Yeah. So I think the biggest one, I went to Haas Automation and did a tour with them 2 years ago. Okay. And I was blown away by their transparency to their employees. On their big dashboards, they have where you stand, where you're at on the totem pole, how close the entire company is to their bonus goal, all of those type of things. And so I came back fully inspired, and I've always been a guy that just is too transparent, to be honest. I just, here's cards on the table, we're going to deal with it how we deal with it kind of situation. Mm-hmm. And so the employee reviews that I've talked to you about and the different things that we've put in place, I think they all tie together. And so I think that holistic leadership model that I've talked about, I think you have to look at it as they're all intertwined. So you have to get employee buy-in and respect. They have to believe in what you're doing. That matters. So morale and culture there. I think getting them excited about the technology they get to work in, sharing enough about the actual parts and projects they're getting to work in, end use. So we just did, it's a public program, but we just did 98% of the components on Project Scorpius for Lanel. Huge contract. Massively. It was a 3-year contract, thousands and thousands and thousands of parts a month that we were sending that hit every department, lathe, 3, 4, 5-axis machining. So it was filled in our shop. We shared them pictures. We had the team come out and they got to meet the team. And so we don't hide production like this, stepchild in the corner that nobody wants to talk to. We champion them and we make them feel like they're part of the overall vision and the growth of MTI. And so I think that's a huge portion of it. And then when it comes into systems, we use things like Fast Track for tooling. We keep inventory high. We don't allow for, any delays on material. And so we're very proactive up front about material ordering. We do kind of tote the line on lean manufacturing. Sometimes we definitely get it before it gets there just on time. That's huge. They're not waiting on documentation ever. And then we are very big on part of why they get that revenue share is because they do things like while one job's running, they're programming for another machine. Each guy is in charge of 2 or 3, 4 machines, depending on their expertise and skill. And they've got a really good system for that. Lucas and the guys have a really good pulse on that. And so they, if a guy starts getting, held up, or we call it the yips, if he starts getting the yips and having trouble with the job, we'll transition and have somebody else cover those 2 machines, and we just keep going. So we're definitely not where we need to be, which is why I'm exploring other ERP systems. I'm exploring simplifying our own internal system. I think that we as admin and management can make it even smoother for the guys, but we've really done a good job of just getting their buy-in, them being excited about their job, them knowing where they stand with us. That alone, oh my goodness, the respect to tell them when you think that they need to make an adjustment, and the respect to tell them they're doing a good job, that transparency, vulnerability, and trust goes so far, because when they see that I'm busy, for example, so this just happened. I had my wife was in a car accident. She's okay. Her back was hurt from it. She wasn't able to lift my daughter, who's 6 months old. And so there was 3 weeks where I had my daughter Malin with me at the shop. And so she was sitting on my lap in every meeting. She was, telling the guys what to do. I got her pink Carhartt shirts. She was just shop girl. She's everybody's boss now. The guys saw, without me having to say, I need y'all to step up, and they stepped up. And I think that only comes from the respect of, I've also been there for them in those moments. And I am active in that. Now, when I let the ball slip and I use busyness as an excuse and I lose that touch, which I can do, like when our new laser got installed, Lucas and I were out for like 2 weeks, and it felt like the culture definitely started to slip a little bit. And so we have to, it requires our discipline to be able to really keep that going. I mean, as a leader, there's just some things that are non-negotiable, and your touch matters, or at least having good guys underneath you that have that same level of touch. And in a shop of 15 guys, if it's not me or Lucas, it's just not going to happen. So That's been a huge one.
Wow. I love the intentionality you bring to this role. It's really remarkable. Yeah.
I think if you've ever worked for somebody that didn't, and you get the opportunity to do it, it's like, what a waste if you don't. What a waste. Like I have to sleep with myself at night, and that's why I've loved your conversations. You don't let conversations just go. Our industry, I'm absolutely in love with it, but all of us can talk about robots all day. Like, of course we can. It's exciting technology, but the vulnerability as a leader to talk about, like, here's where I mess up, dude. Like, here's where the culture slips at times, or here's where this happens at times. And you really lead that conversation. And that's why I've loved this podcast. It seems like everyone goes back to the humanity of business. And I think that it is. And if you're a small business, especially, you cannot understate your impact on their life. I mean, your impact could change how this guy goes home and treats his wife. I mean, that like straight up. And so you can't carry the weight of somebody's entire life, but you certainly can make the most of your time.
Man, this is really good. I'm so glad you're on the show.
Thank you.
What would, I can imagine lots of people being inspired by this conversation and wanting to sort of follow your lead and do some of these things. How would you suggest someone start if they've not been doing this all along?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it starts with the challenge of leading yourself well. When I said I went in at the start of this conversation into a dark season, I had serious character issues that I wasn't okay with within myself. And I wasn't somebody that I would have followed into the trenches, right? And I think that part of when Lucas shared that vision, if you were to see Lucas, Lucas is in incredible shape. He takes care of himself. He looks like an individual that takes care of himself. He handles himself well, and he very much embodies somebody that is worth following. That discipline his dad lived. When you meet people like that, and then you start in a position where I was still rebuilding, the challenge becomes, how do I become somebody that can even have that conversation? Because if you're not doing the work on yourself and people don't see that, and you're not owning your own quote unquote scrap rate in your life, who are you to ever even approach somebody? I mean, if you're at work and you're distracted and you're never there and you're not doing this and you're not doing that, you clearly don't respect yourself. You clearly don't take care of yourself. Your office is a mess. Your life's a mess. Why would your best machinist, whose life is maybe better than your life in terms of how you have it together, why would he listen to you or follow you? And so I just don't think as leaders we can separate our lifestyle from our effectivity as a leader. And so the intentionality comes from me trying to be very honest with myself and trying to start with that, let that be the framework, and go to war on myself. And so that means educating. I got to learn things. So last year I was overwhelmed by how complicated accounting is in manufacturing. Like, oh my gosh, like even though I had a finance background, it didn't make sense to me understanding the tax advantages of machines, understanding the balance sheet and how to use that to paint the story you want, P&Ls and all those things. I identified a deficit. Before I can go teach a lecture on accounting, I got to go to study. I got to go prove this out and put it in my lab. And so I never implement anything with our guys, nor does Lucas, before we've already implemented. Follow it and do not say that we're the exception. And so if there's a traveler deal and Lucas is putting hardware in to help the guys, he better clock in too. Because if they see him not, they're not. And so I think that's a huge thing. And that's very hard as a leader. And quite frankly, it's exhausting because if you run that ball through, that means that's how you treat your wife. It means it's how you treat your kid, how you treat your friends, how I treat Lucas, how I treat people that are above me, underneath me in terms of leadership, anything like that. And I don't want to get corny because I think that they've been hijacked by people that have abused it. But the phrase that has been coined for this is servant leadership. I hate that because I've known a lot of people that are not great people that will put that on LinkedIn and not follow it. But I think ultimately it's just asking, do I follow this? Am I willing to follow this? Am I willing to do this every day? And am I somebody worth following? And I think that's hard because you'll never feel like you get there. But I think if people see that you're on the journey, that's enough sometimes. They're not looking for perfection, nor do they expect it. They want somebody that they feel like is in the fire with you. And I think in machining, what a perfect industry that's built on rough and grind and this hardcore thing that's cutting metal every day. What a perfect industry to be vulnerable and to lead, with that type of intentionality. And so it's tough, but you also have to be intentional with the back end of that. So I have to be intentional with the hard conversations, like I said, and sometimes that's uncomfortable. But once again, if you've earned respect, that you can do that. So my challenge to leaders out there who want to implement this, seriously, take a Friday morning, get you your favorite cup of coffee, sit in a room with your phone off, and just ask yourself, what am I doing as a leader that I wouldn't want my guys to do? What I wouldn't teach? And am I somebody worth following? And what things do I just need to tweak? And I would encourage people to do that for every aspect of their life, because the better I am with my wife, the better I am when I come in, and vice versa. And so I would say that's huge. I don't know. I get worried about us as leaders getting busy and not taking the time to just say, like, am I doing the things? Am I healthy? Like, do I organize my life well? Do I follow a system well? Because if you got the title, sure, you could write yourself as the exception, but what a crappy leader that is. Like, I hate to say it that way, but what a failure that would be. So if I can live it and I only implement things that I can follow, then I can have honest conversations.
You're just getting better and better at this, Ty. Wow. These are amazing answers. So clearly you guys are doing a lot of stuff right, but we know this business is the hardest in the world. You guys have clearly gone through some tough times too. I mean, I remember days at the shop thinking there's no way we're going to survive whatever it was that happened, right? Tell me about some of the harder moments and how you guys pulled through it and what you did about it.
Yeah, one of the hardest moments for me personally, and then I'll share one for us as a company. When I came in with a pretty high level of shame from my past. I didn't believe I was a leader worth following, as I just mentioned in my previous answer. Mm-hmm. And what that did is it kept me distant from the guys. And I didn't want to go out there and figure out where they're at. Like, I wanted to look at a screen data and them tell me if, data tell me if they're 10% behind or 40% behind or something like that. And I think I learned very quickly that the greatest gift we can give is our presence as leaders, and to be truly present, not there with a stop clock, not there with our notebook, but to be with them. And I think that can be scary. And I think it can be vulnerable. And I think that there's a lot of old school leadership that teaches you to not be close to your guys. But I think that in our day and age, you cannot be successful without knowing your people. I just don't think you can. I think that our generation and the generation that's coming, realness is the only way. I think people pick up on fakeness. I think people they'll feel used if you don't talk to them. And so I think for me, that was a big overhaul. I had to silence the voice in my own head. And I had to really approach it like, okay, even if I do fail again, I can use that. Like, that's what qualifies me. And taking that approach to my guys, that scrapped part's what qualifies them to be a good machinist. Are you kidding me? That's how you get better. How's that not true for my life or your life or anybody else's life? So that was my personal one. And then corporate wise, it was, if you don't pay attention to the culture slips. And Lucas and I didn't do that when that whole war happened. And man, we lost some good machinists that are doing great things now that, quite frankly, locally tarnished our reputation a little bit. Now we've rebuilt it. Having nobody quit for, 5 years is a pretty good way to rebuild that. I mean, we've certainly made leaps and bounds in the right direction. But I think that learning that if you slip, it slips in a small business. And so you've got to get better at systems. You got to get better at your time management. Because right now we're limited. Our growth's limited by Lucas and I's personal capacity. And when you only got 15 guys and your role is high or slow, like, stuff doesn't get done. And so I think getting better at systems, like we use Airtable a lot. That's an automated system that we use that people can, we love that. We love, I use Notion. I've got personal dashboards that we use to try to do this. And like I said, adjusting ERPs, adjusting those types of things, I think will get us there. But once again, we've grown, 3 years in a row, over 30% in both companies, 3 times running. And we already have, I believe we'll be more this year. We have some huge bids out right now that I think will win, which is incredible. And so I think we're in a season of growing pains. And I think that we took what was more of a mom and pop shop with a side hustle that Stone Mather is, and we're turning them into legit standout manufacturing companies. And I think that we don't know how to do that yet. We're learning as we go. And so I think that as long as we stay vulnerable to an extent, as long as we stay transparent with our guys, and as long as we keep the good things we have and don't forsake those for busyness or opportunity, I think that we will grow into it. And I think that we'll continue to chisel. But I think that's the biggest thing is just understanding, like, you aren't going to have all the answers today. Like, I'm one person, Lucas is one person, together we're two. And so if we're trying to grow 2 companies, man, things are going to slip, and you just got to be okay with that at times. And I get it. The delegation thing, I'm the first to tell somebody to do it. And I'm the last to apply it because I don't feel like I can trust just anybody. And so just growing that way, those would probably be my 2 biggest lessons.
Thank you for those. Yeah, those are very relatable. Wow. Is there anything else you'd like to share that I haven't asked you? We're already at an hour here and the time has flown.
Yeah, it has. No, I've loved this, and I just want to reiterate, I love that you have real conversations, and my hope for our industry is that as we all grow to try to show capabilities and technologies and systems and all of these great things that we're so proud of in our companies. I couldn't be more proud of our new laser, for example. I want to share that on LinkedIn. My hope is that as an industry, that we continue to talk about the real things that impact us as business leaders, that impact our employees, and that we would continue to educate and have conversations and learn from each other to be able to make our businesses better to work for. And ultimately, that leads to us all growing our companies. And then if you want to draw that out to 30,000, I think that grows the industry in the United States, which is what all of us want to ultimately do. So I think if we work on ourselves, we work on our companies, and we share the wisdom, I think we're in a really good place. And I'm very thankful that you're leading the charge on that, and that it is growing that way. So thank you.
Well, I don't feel like I'm leading the charge, but I feel like I need to contribute to it. So it's my guests that are providing all the incredible wisdom. So, and you brought it in spades today. So thank you for the, geez. So I think this is now, the fifth time that I've gotten choked to tears on a podcast. And it's typically, I was going to say for the last little bit, you couldn't tell if you weren't actually watching on video. So if you're listening, but clearly if you're listening, you can tell now. And I think, and I reflect back on the times that has happened to me before. And I'm just so incredibly inspired by people that are so passionate about whatever it is that they're doing, right? Mm-hmm. And the fact that you're passionate about self-improvement and leadership and this industry is just like a culmination of things that are so important to me as well, that it just really touches me. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity to have the conversation. I want my personal conversations. This is what a day in MTI looks like, with a lot more joking for sure. I definitely went the heavier route on it, but I think that this is so good to have this publicly, because there's things that I've been trying to say in increments and trying to get the courage for Lucas and I to get out there and talk about this, because, we have a phenomenal shop. We really do. And we're young. Lucas is 33. I'm 31. We're going to be in this industry for a long time. We're passionate about it. And I want to be a part of the conversation that surrounds this, to where, we're seeing shops not just grow, not just get contracts, but like genuinely be healthy places, and the owners and business leaders be, healthy. And then I want to personally inspire people that even if you're not the owner yourself, like I am not, you can still have an impact and influence, and you can still make a difference in your business and your shop. And you can ultimately be whatever it is that you're hired for. You can make the most of that and really go far with it. So, yeah, I appreciate that you are leading it. And I love the humility in that you are, because you're a voice that's giving a microphone to a lot of people that otherwise wouldn't. I mean, every shop in the United States is the best kept secret. We all are. Like we said, the general public doesn't know we're here. I mean, like you said, our buildings don't have windows with see-through glass that everybody can see the machines running. And so I think these conversations will also lead to people wanting to work for places like this. And they'll learn the trade, or they'll work in finance, or they'll work in procurement. But those things are teachable. But teaching the health of a business and teaching these types of conversations is much harder. So thank you for that.
Well, you're welcome. So if people want to learn more about MTI or
SMD, yeah.
SMD, how do they reach out to find more?
Yeah, so they can follow me on LinkedIn. I definitely share way more than Lucas. I'm trying to get him to be more vocal there. Just Ty Haguewood on LinkedIn. We are working behind the scenes on something else to just kind of help get our story out a little bit better and talk to some more local people that I think would be good. But right now, our LinkedIn page, and then both Manufacturing Technologies and Stone Mather Design have their own LinkedIn pages. So we're slowly trying to build and get out there. We haven't been trying for long. I've been posting for not too terribly long, and just trying to kind of start getting our voice into the conversation and talk about what we think is beneficial to us. So you can catch us there, and would be happy to have any conversations with anybody that wants to. Yeah.
Awesome. And the website for MTI is mfgtechusa.com?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Very cool website. I like it.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, Ty, thank you so much. This has been just a very special hour and 6 minutes. So yeah. I appreciate everything that you shared.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been an honor for me as well.
All right. See you around.
Yes, sir.